Gentlelady yields. I'll now recognize myself for 5 minutes. And Director, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have consistently said that the Census Bureau should not be partisan. It should be nonpartisan. I agree completely. They say it should not be political. I agree with that. The problem is the mistakes that were made in the last census have huge political consequences. By looking at the undercount in the red states and the overcount in the blue states, it's very safe to say that between 3 and 4 congressional seats were distorted because of the mistake of the census. 100% confident those 3 or 4 seats would have been Republican based on the voting patterns in the last election in those states and the margins of victory for Trump and defeat for Harris. When you're talking about 3 or 4 seats in Congress, that's the margin of this Congress. That's everything. That depends on who's chairman of the committee and the policy and the direction. It's of the utmost significance to the whole political system in America. And I know you weren't director during the last census. The last director was Stephen Dillingham, and I was on this committee. This committee, by the way, has legislative jurisdiction over the census. And I was, I publicly made statements of my concern about how the census was being conducted because we did have the COVID pandemic. And I guess my question is, I'm still trying to understand. During a normal year of census, you have all these census workers. I have friends that used to work part-time for the census. If someone didn't fill out their application, then let's say in 2010 or in the previous 100 years, someone from the census would knock on their door and help them fill out their form. How was that conducted during COVID? I mean, I would assume that there were a significant number of doors that were never knocked on because of COVID. Then there were estimates that were made, right? Can you kind of briefly explain how that worked? I mean, what do you have any idea? What percentage of homes were never contacted? What percentage of the homes that did not fill out the census forms or the online form or whatever were never contacted?
To my knowledge, if a home was sent a mailable address,
right,
and
that's always the way it's been done, and there are always a significant number that don't fill them out, and then someone from the census would knock on their door, but they didn't the last time because of COVID restrictions. Is that correct?
That's not correct.
You're saying every house in America got knocked on?
That is not correct. I'm saying that we had a protocol that sent out a mailing, multiple mailings. People either self-respond, or they didn't. If they didn't, that kicked in the next phase called the non-response follow-up. And it's that subset of houses that gets knocked on.
And every person that did not respond was greeted by a census employee.
Every household.
Every household.
It's an address.
How then,
to my knowledge.
How then was there such a mistake in the census? Many of us believe that the federal agencies are populated with hyper-partisan, left-wing extremists. And, it just so many mistakes that are made, big mistakes in this town, always just mysteriously benefit Democrats at the expense of Republicans. So the purpose of this hearing is we're going to be watching the census, and we expect it to be pretty accurate. You mentioned technology, use technology in helping to count. How many employees full-time right now are in the census?
Full-time, I would think, I'm guessing around 10,000. Because
10,000.
Not only do we...
I know that doesn't count how many you hire part-time during in the census year, but 10,000.
We have 6 regional offices.
You mentioned the adoption of technology and AI and all of that. do you still need 10,000 employees? Or because of technology, can the census get by with less employees?
Well, keep in mind, Congressman, that we have 3 different censuses. 2 of the 3 we do every 5 years, economic census and
Or are
the
they
census government.
any more accurate than the last one? And let me say this. According to recent projections, the states that voted for their electors for Kamala Harris are poised to lose as many as 12 seats. If the projections continue, the way the blue state, you would assume more people are probably going to move out of New York, and more people are going to move to South Carolina and Florida and some of the growth states. More people are moving to Arizona, Montana, the Dakotas, out of California. So it's of the utmost importance that we have confidence in the census. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't have confidence in the census the last time, and that wasn't under you, and that was in the Trump administration. We're trying to determine now whether we're going to have confidence in the census moving forward. And I just think it's very important that every one of those 10,000 employees in the census understand that we're watching the census, and we expect with the technology, with the massive budget you have, with all these federal employees, we expect a better product than what we got in this last census, because this last census was not acceptable. It was political, and we're very disappointed in the Census Bureau. So with that, Chair now recognizes Mr. Goldman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would warn you not to sleep on New